Hail Satan, everybody. I'm hoping this might be a means to bring the volume up a little bit on my little classes that I do here in Facebook. And I'll probably do the same thing with YouTube. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm hoping I won't get a reverb too much. First thing we wanted to say from the Brotherhood National Office is that we hope that everybody had a real good Astara, spring equinox, lesser Sabbath. It's just a time for us to plant the seeds of things that we're going to receive in harvest time, right? And it's also the time of the year to do this every year, actually plant those seeds, right? We call them satanic thought form patterns. And those at times even have demons attached to them, which is kind of cool. Another story, and that's not what I'm talking about today, though. But we wanted to wish everybody a very happy, Astra, and we hope everybody, did some magic for planting some seeds for themselves to grow, and for you guys to be prosperous and to have an abundant life, And you want to have good health, of course, because that abundant life isn't going to help you if you don't have good health, with good cheer, as the Irish would say. Okay. Well, let me get started on what we're going to talk about. I wanted to talk about something today. That's a controversial subject. And Drew a lot of times likes to pick those controversial subjects for us to discuss, okay, or for me to discuss as food of thought for my friends that are listening to what I have to say on my broadcasts, right? And the things I do pick, they're food for thought, and I do that on purpose. A lot of times, to keep our attention with an internet full of things, you want to discuss things that definitely are controversial in some manners, and sometimes in some ways and means, right? Okay, so this time I'm talking about the Satanic Warlock. Okay. And there's a reason I'm broadcasting from Facebook doing this, because I'm not going to neglect also sharing some things on Facebook. It has been the social network the Brotherhood's been in the longest. And I think I'm going to give Facebook back some due and continue to do some broadcasts from here. Although I'm also going to be majorly broadcasting from the National Office's New Brotherhood Satan YouTube page. We also have our other YouTube page out there. But this is going to felicitate me being able to broadcast a lot more classes, a lot more meat on the bone, things for everybody that's interested in, learning a lot more stuff. The dark arts is a whole range of things. I'm doing a class this evening for our company here on the black and satanic arts, right? The dark satanic arts. It's a pretty exceptional class. And it's a very extensive class. So some of my classes will be really extensive, some will be a little bit shorter, depending on what I'm going to be talking about. And maybe if there's controversy around them, or if it's subjects, that there's some in-depth to, because the black arts, there's a lot of subjects that have some very in-depth things to. And in the research of that, here's our little Isis has to be on camera with me on the she is. So we got to make sure we do these things in the proper way, right? And I want to do the more extensive, in-depth things, okay? Now, I just did a class recently for our coven here. It was on necromancy, brother's perspective about necromancy. But as I did that class, and it was an exceptional class on its own, believe me. But when I did that class, I, found in my own research, of course I've been doing this lifetimes in research pretty much, of how extensive, our ancestors in the ancient cultures believed in necromancy and stuff. And so you're going back to a whole cauldron of things there, okay? With the necropolis, places of the dead, the book of the dead, the raising of the dead, so on and so forth. So one of our coven classes coming up, it's a very extensive class, is going to be Necromancy Explored. Again, that's only for Brotherhood covens. But believe me, I'll make it up to everybody else. People that are on the outside looking in, they're not BLS members, or they're not Brotherhood of Darkness members. You know, I want to still have material out there and be able to pass things on to you too. A real teacher wants to pass on. So that's very, very important. So let's get to the talk of what we're talking about. So we're bringing up the controversial subject of, the word warlock. Now, when I say it's controversial, you know, what I mean by that is that when you say the word controversial, that usually means there's two perspectives, two viewpoints, two opinions, right, of the subject out there. And there actually is with the word warlock. Okay? Now, there's a lot of old traditionalists that are pre-Wicca, of course, but it's satanic witchcraft lineage, right? That we have always, you know, looked at things as in the more traditional generational heredity sense, right? And you have to go back into history and see where things began. Okay, there's where, and the term warlock, of course, probably came out pretty accurately stated, probably about the same time witchcraft came out, you know, as a name to call witches, right? They're practicing the craft, witchcraft. So we know the name warlock pretty much derived from Elizabethan England. Okay, so it does go back pretty far. And there's reference to it. In fact, there's reference to it in Scottish witchcraft annals, to there being a black book. Okay, kind of like this. This is kind of a remake of that book. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that there really did exist, you know, a black book that was the possession of a warlock. Okay, a male witch. Okay, and it said it was the black book of the devil. There's no, you know, qualms about that. That's what it was about. So later on, a descendant of another witch, Scottish witch, hereditary witch, decided to write a book, right, called The Warlock's Book. And here it is, by Peter Haney. Now, this book been around a long time. I've read it back in the 70s. Okay. So, there's going to be two theories that really exist out there. And remember, we're Satanists. Now, Satanists, we're free to determine and think of things in our own manner. Okay? And as Satanists that are living today, you know, a lot of times we have to open our own thinking some, from being generational, keeping things so shrouded and hidden under the, you know, in the underworld of darkness like we have so many years. Well, today, you know, we had to talk about some of these things. We have to give a more honest perception of it, or an opinion of it, what we think about it today, right? Okay, and Brotherhood, like everybody else out there, you know, we want to try to grow with the times too. So here's my point: as a Satanist and as a male witch. Now, I would personally call myself a male satanic witch before I would call myself a male satanic warlock. But the real truth is, even though it's controversial, so the truth is, a male witch has been called a male witch, right? And a male witch has been called a warlock. Okay. Now, in witchcraft history, again, I said, like I said, probably, you know, Elizabethan time period in England particularly. You know, the name warlock came out as being really probably a craft magister, you know, of the Satanic Coven, and he had possession of the Black Book, and so on and so forth in history, right? Now, this is a lot going back to, like I said, the Angles and Scottish witchcraft. But the truth is, that's the time period where the name Warlock came out as being associated with male witches. Now, we don't really know if that came from the church, even, or if it really came from within Brotherhood Satanic witchcraft covens that were the ones that existed well before Wicca. We don't really know that for a fact. There's not really been paperwork filed on any of it. So here's what Drew's saying. As Satanists, okay, and as satanic men, or any gender, I'm not trying to down-rep any other gender, alternative genders included, okay, but in the male aspect, right? If there's any male satanic witch that feels like he identifies more with that term warlock, we're as Satanists free to believe it and do as we will. And so, Drew's just saying from the Brotherhood stance, we're not going to go out and say a lot of the other things that we've known traditionally about the name warlock and try to, ridicule our brother male witches that want to call themselves warlocks, right? Some of my own craft history, it goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. I believe that it does. I can tell you of instances where I actually saw it written down in books, which were real old books, and I've also gotten into discussions and conversations with witches that were hereditary in England, even in modern times. Okay, I've had the same discussion. And the thing that comes out about it, and where there came to be a notoriety attached to the name Warlock, is because when someone was a traitor in witchcraft, they spoke out against their magister, they left the craft coven or the circle under very dubious means, or they were very mouthy, or hurt somebody on, when they quit, or whatever. And then that person was removed from that coven. They were warlocked, and that was the term that was used, was warlocked. So, perhaps it's a play of words there. Maybe warlock did come to be associated with male witch. I think that might be from the church, however, but, and everything. But in craft traditions, and in craft lore and legend and history, there's that, those denotations about a person being warlock from the coven. Okay, so there's another way that the name had a little notoriety attached to it. Most male witches we prefer to be called, male witches. Okay, but the real truth is, like I said, it's determined by you as an individual Satanist if you are a satanic witch as well. If you're a practitioner of satanic witchcraft also. The Brotherhood covens are satanic witchcraft. So, I think it's a personal choice. It's going to be entirely up to us how we want to see ourselves. But you won't hear the Brotherhood saying anything negative about any male witch that decides they want to, use the term warlock, okay? I've been called a warlock. Don't think I haven't in my 66 years come April 1st. My 66 years of being a Satanist witch out there, a member of many secret societies. I've been called a warlock, oh yeah. I've had that finger pointed at me and warlock or witch. Believe me, I've been through that persecution. I have been through it. But I do think as Satanists, we have to keep a confirmation, a conforming, to our satanic philosophy, right? And that says we're individual Satanists. We're individual people, male or female. And we have a choice to call ourselves by what terminology we so deem fit, right? Male Satan, and so on. So I wanted to bring that up about the warlock. And I wanted to share just a touch of history. So, on a chill November morning in the year 1654, a condemned witch when Janet Haney was burned at the stake before a small silent crowd of onlookers in a rural Scottish village of Lat. There was nothing particularly out of the ordinary about the execution. Scotland had, after all, suffered only slightly less from her kind in Germany, the most witch-plagued country of Europe. And hadn't Janet herself admitted to knowledge of certain charms and spells before the judges? Still, for a few brief hours, her name was upon the lips of hundreds or so superstitious lowland farmers and crofters before it faded from memory to become just one more number in an ever-growing figure of witches put to death. Okay. But here's what I'm getting at. Jen is talking about further in here, in the introduction. Jan is talking about knowing about this black Grimoire of Satan, and that it was an Elizabethan warlock that had it in his possession. You know, so there's some like history about, you know, that the warlock is mentioned in history. Oh, very definitely. Again, Drew's just telling you, I'm not quite certain where the real sources of the name came from, whether that was a church influence where they wanted to call the feminine craft, you know, witch, and then the male dark craft, you know, warlocks. Okay. Now, this isn't going to be as long as the other, you know, things I've posted, or excuse me, broadcasted, of course. But I just wanted to let everybody know I'm going to be broadcasting from here on YouTube as well, because I do think, even though we're going to be broadcasting from the new YouTube page, new YouTube channel, come Sunday, I feel like, you know, I want to share here too, and there may be people that don't see it on, you know, that may not be on YouTube, may not see it on YouTube, and my broadcast will be beneficial to the people that are on Facebook that run across it, you know. Hopefully that's the way it'll go, right? So we know my Sinful Sunday broadcast is going to be pretty cool. It's the continuity of the Brotherhood. Did we exist before 1966? Now, from the historical viewpoint of Satanism, this will be a video you'll want to watch. My videos, you know, I put time and effort into the research for them. I specifically go on certain timing that I feel from the demons too, and the old ones, that tells me when the best timing to do something is. You know, I do a lot of that. I'm just, you know, what did you say? Just a servant of Satan that's here to pass on the old ways, right? And I think sometimes people are always worried about being so rigid or something with their, you know, with their broadcasts or the classes or the workshops they may be doing. You know, take time to do one and be in a relaxed state, kind of like I'm doing today, right? Just kicking back with Ice Inspector over my shoulder. She hangs out with me a lot when I'm broadcasting, of course. Witches do have her familiars. There's usually ultimately one going to be around if David's doing or Drew's doing anything that has to do with magic, you know, or talking about magic, which I'm always doing. There's going to be a familiar around somewhere. And I know last week we talked about cauldron magic and the brother's perspective on that. And you can see the cauldron still where it was, you know, when I did the last broadcast. It will be going back down into the temple tomorrow. We will be doing a ritual here tomorrow that we're actually going to be using for it. So it'll move back down there where it normally is. But I thought that would be something to talk about real quick about the Satanic Warlock. Okay? So let's just break it back down as Satanists. Okay? Following Satanic philosophy and what it says. Where it says we're each to do what thou wilt, right? We're each to do what we will. Okay? That means we're actually free to see Satan any way we want to. Because where we have to give satanic respect to the atheist, branch of Satanism, even though they don't respect us ever. But I still try to, and still kind of just don't get any beefs with them. It's just that way to me. I can't waste my time on this stuff. But I don't feel it's a waste of my time when I get out here, though, and I teach the people on my friends list or people there on Facebook. My whole thing of doing it from YouTube is so that I can really, make the BOS National Office YouTube a major media channel for the Brotherhood. And it has a sister channel already, the Brotherhood of Satan is there too. But this is going to facilitate a lot of new Brotherhood videos, okay? Covering a lot of neat subjects. So, I promise I won't be boring everybody to death. If you notice, I'll pick things out, to talk about and stuff. And oftentimes I'm going to tell you the Brotherhood's perspective to things too. Now there's a reason for that. The Brotherhood has those missing pieces of the puzzle, right? And sometimes all that needs to be done is Drew putting the piece in front of somebody else where all they can do is pick it up and then they're looking and saying, oh, you put it here in the puzzle, right? And they're getting a mosaic and a picture when that puzzle started developing. Am I correct? That's my goal. So this is also a shout out to my new friends on my page. You might think, we're new to Drew's page and stuff. I talk to everybody, okay? I'm very busy. I'm the most busy master counselor in the U.S., so I'm busy constantly. But contact me. I will get back to you. I will talk to you. I am accessible. A lot of people text me too. But don't be scarce. Don't be afraid to ask me questions. Again, as I've always said, if you know something and you're a true satanic leader, you're not going to be afraid of any question. Any question. Okay, and if they're afraid of answering your questions, sisters and brothers, you don't want them as a teacher. Because the only way you're going to learn is you're going to ask specific personal questions you're going to have as an individual Satanist in the first place. I'm a firm believer of understanding craft symbology, and since we're talking about the Satanic Warlock, and the owl comes to mind. Well, you don't attain the wisdom of that owl, right, until you've spiritually matured. But wow, once you reach that level, it's hard for somebody to stop a real leader. Real leaders don't quit. Real leaders, even when there's an obstacle in front of us, we're going to go around it, over it, or through it. And the Brotherhood way is never stagnation. So, again, like I said, be watching, because I'm most likely going to broadcast from Facebook still besides YouTube. But I can share from both, either however I want to do it, So I may do, if I do broadcast, like say during the week, and I do a little broadcast like this one, a little impromptu one, even though it's definitely a subject I need to address. I'll make these be in the middle of the week, and the others will be Facebook ones, However I do that as a master counselor. And that's going to depend on a lot of my time. I have a book going out about the Grail families. Be pretty cool. So it's being in the act of being edited now, and it goes over to my publisher. Then we have Francis Ford Coppola Productions picking it up to be a Netflix miniseries. So that's going to be kind of cool. And all that funding to me should be Brotherhood of Satan funding. Even if it's a particular single project that Drew does on his own, because I eat, sleep, and drink the Brotherhood. No, I am not the Brotherhood. We all are the Brotherhood. But you're going to have leaders that are called luminaries, right? Well, luminaries, we just do it. Those that know and those that do. Almost everything the Brotherhood teaches, and the sayings we say particularly, or the models that we say, those have been gleaned for hundreds of years in our history. and they all have meaning. Knowledge used with wisdom is our way. This is the way of the Brotherhood, and it is the way to power. Now there's one of them. That's older than true. And any satanic adept knows that knowledge used with wisdom is power. There you go. That wisdom doesn't develop until your spiritual maturity comes in, right? Then the power of the owl is there, another symbolic symbol, an animal totem that you can, connect with. It's a very, very powerful energy force. But it represents spiritual maturity. The dark nocturnal owl. That's your elders. Okay, it's a symbol of brotherhood eldership also. I might as well add that, since we're talking about elders. Okay, you can't really say elder without showing owl symbology. It's just, they go hand in hand. So, male warlocks. You're going to have some male warlocks that really know their stuff. You're going to have some male warlocks that really don't know their own history or anything beyond a few books, perhaps. But again, it boils back down to, in the witch's cauldron, that we're individuals, and we all have freedom of choice, just like we should have freedom of speech and all that. And our choice is whatever way a male practitioner of Satanism and satanic witchcraft, wants to see themselves the way that it should be. All the rest of us Satanists out there shouldn't ridicule them. We shouldn't criticize them for it or anything. Hail him still as a brother, right? Okay. Thanks everybody. I know I probably took up everybody's time. A little impromptu one. It's not my Sinful Sunday Mystery of Infernal Affairs one, which will be Sunday. And that's going to be a pretty cool one about continuity of Satanism. Like I said. Very few satanic teachers address some of these things. But for the most part, I'll tell you why. They don't have the knowledge to address them. That's where Brotherhood comes in. Brotherhood of Satan could be called the Sisterhood of Satan very easily. But ultimately, we're the Brotherhood of Knowledge, like I said in a recent video. The serpent expounding the gnosis, right? Knowledge. Okay. Thanks for everybody's time. And as I said, I'm also a member of a Warlock Society that's online. I get along with them pretty good, and with all the other male witches that are in there. There are Satanic Warlocks also, And again, my own thinking about the word warlock come from the historical things I've studied in my research over many, many, many years, right? But again, if you're a unity Satanist, you can step back from the norm and look at things in a little different light and say, well, okay, there's two different references to warlock, in medieval and in European history, Elizabethan history and all that they existed back then, and that's the name that they had. Again, I think it's kind of speculative on where the name came from, but and then of course you heard the theory I was saying earlier about a person who was a traitor to their coven, or they betrayed their high priestess, or dissed anybody, disrespected the queen of the coven, and they got kicked out, right? And that was a person that was warlocked. So again, like I said earlier, you can kind of see where those the two things conflict with each other. Why would you, if you're a male hereditary witch, why would most of us, why would we be interested in, being called a traitor to our coven, or a person that's been warlocked from their coven, or be misunderstood to be somebody like that, right? But again, Drew does his research, and I have seen both references out there, right? That warlocks did exist. So, but again, there was also a negative connotation with the name warlock that came from traditional witchcraft itself, also. But it does sound like kind of a contradiction there. But keep an open mind. That's what the Brotherhood does. Most of the knowledge we have, once we ascertain that we believe this to be fact or that to be fiction, right? Once we ascertain it's fact, that's what we'll stick to our guns on. But Drew will never, if it's speculative, Drew's never going to tell you it's fact if it's a speculation, okay? You got no satanic word out there. That's how kind of teacher I want to be. Okay. Thank you all for your time. I'm not sure how this is going to sound with the mic, but I was noticing my last videos, it's hard to hear my voice for some reason. I just got over the flu too, and there is I still have some raspiness in my voice. But I wanted to get back out here and react as soon as I could. I was down with the flu pretty good there for a little bit. But, knock on wood at my age. I get a little flu once in a while. Of course, that was a pretty bad one. But if you get a little flu once in a while, you're doing pretty good. You're not going to the doctor for nothing else. So, hell, ain't none of that. I think the demons are watching out for me. We all have our guardian demons, right? Okay, my friends. So next time you're going to see me live again, it's going to be on Sunday. Ave Satanas. Live long and prosper. Always hail Satan first, then hail yourself. So mote it be.